Hello, it is July 14th and it is 11:40 p.m. right now. I want to get through a lot of things that have to be talked about today. Things were really changing over past day or so, mainly due to the fact that last night I was able to work on a few things in a few journals, like the child journal, and it got to the point where I was making sense for court and law and order, and so people were changing their strategies by morning time. Basically, people from the other side were starting to give up. And they saw that this child rhetoric coming from people like Farid the Greedy Framer, who's been involved in November 20th false testimony against me, was forced out of the spokesperson stand as soon as a government informant was announced, and who made subsequent lies against me after November 20th, and then even more lies. Those lies, by the way, were already confessed to being false and lies to the government informant, and then even more lies that were made against me afterwards that were caught to being complete lies from phone conversations retrieved. Now, these people were, after all of their talking points were all gone, taken care of. You have people like Farid the Greedy Framer, and you have my dad, the Greedy Framer, making more lies against me as much as possible, but these could not go through, mainly because my dad, the Greedy Framer, for the third time, when he was given a chance, which is really funny because the courts were played for a fool 3 times, and each one of those times it costed taxpayer money huge amounts. The November 20th, my dad, the Greedy Framer, begged law enforcement and his Framer sisters to make against me, and it costed the government like to employ a government informant to be sitting there all day long, just to find out that these people who were fabricators were framing me and making up lies against me, and had more planned lies that were going to make against me even after November 20th. And that it was basically a bunch of frauds and scammers, and envious people making up lies against me in their house, with the government informant being employed for the first time. The second time, they were lying again. The same government informant from before November 20th, they confessed to him that they had more lies and they wanted help from him for those set of lies. Obviously, November 20th, my dad, the Greedy Framer, asked his Framer sisters to make against me, and then he begged law enforcement to give it to them. And then the second set of lies were already confessed to being complete and total lies to even before November 20th. And so then you had the third set of lies, talk about being played for a fool. The third set of lies were all lies that my dad, the Greedy Framer, made, and he made it while abusing everyone in court, just to make sure that everyone took his word seriously, because it was the third time for him to be lying. And every single time he would be caught lying, he would say things like, "You're twisting my words," and things of that sort of nature. And he would just keep repeating that over and over again, because there were flaws found in each and every single one of the statements that he made, due to which, whenever a flaw would be found, he would aggressively abuse the people of the court, due to which now he's not allowed anymore, because that was the third time. And this third time, it costed taxpayer money again to retrieve phone conversations, only to find out that he was lying completely, and not one statement that he had made was true in the least bit. Every single statement that he made for the third time was a complete and total lie, from the facts and evidences retrieved from the phone conversations that the government was forced to retrieve for the first November 20th one that my dad, the Greedy Framer, forced his Framer sisters, to make against me, and law enforcement to give to them. It caused mass panic and chaos in the news media, and every governor was putting aside the vaccine issue to deal with this. Costed a lot of money, mental health issues, everything. The second set of lies were already confessed to the government informant before November 20th as being complete and total planned lies against me, to make sure that my brain savant would get locked up, so that no one could get the money that they could not get. And the third set of lies were complete and total lies that costed the government to employ people to retrieve every single phone conversation, only to find out that my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters were lying once again. And the third set of lies, by the way, my dad, the greedy framer, made very aggressively, and every single time he would be caught lying, there would be flaws found in his statements, obviously, because he was making them up and lying to desperately try to lock up my brain savant. And every single time there would be a flaw found in each one of these statements, he would just be like, "You're twisting my words. You're twisting my words. That's not what I said." Only for us to then, for the courts to then retrieve phone conversations in the end. They got sick and tired of it. After he was abusing everyone in court, yelling at them, getting aggressive with them, berating them in court while making these lies, and then saying stuff like, "You're twisting my words," only for us to retrieve phone conversations in the end and find out that every single statement that he made for the third time, he played the courts for a fool, and once again, he costed the government tons in taxpayer money, only for us to find out that he was abusing everyone in court very aggressively for the third time, abusing everyone in court very aggressively, saying stuff like, "You're twisting my words," and abusing them, yelling at them, berating them for the third time, only to make sure that he could make lies against me and aggressively lock up my brain savant using these lies. So now he's obviously not allowed anymore. That was the third time, and the third time he became very aggressive, and he abused every single person in court, and he would and every time the people in court would find flaws in his statements, he would be like, "You're twisting my words," and then try to change the statements immediately, only for the courts to be forced to retrieve phone conversations in the end due to how aggressive he was getting in court, only to try to lock up my brain savant so no one can get the money like my mother that he was not getting. Now obviously the courts are just like, this one man cannot narrate in our trial ever again. Finally, they were played for fool for 3 times already. He was getting very aggressive for the third time, extremely aggressive, saying things like, "You're twisting my words," and this and that. And he would change his statement right away. In the end, the courts were just sick and tired of it due to his aggressive behavior, his aggressive psychopathic behavior, due to which they were forced to retrieve phone conversations, only to find out that every single thing that he said for the third time, he played the courts for a fool again, only to make sure that my brain savant could not get freed and my mother could not get the money if he wasn't getting it. Now, my dad, the greedy framer, has played the courts for a fool multiple times, and everyone else. He basically wants people to think that he's not running after money, when in fact, money is the main motive over here. There is no other motive. There's absolutely nothing else that this psychopathic man is after. He's after enviously locking up my brain savant so that my mother cannot become extremely rich due to the artificial intelligence reports from the numerous brain savant tests that were done. And at the same time, every single time that he thinks my brain savant's about to get freed, he would first send me blackmail price tags for millions of euros. Well, the first one on July 9th, right now, only 5 days ago, was the first one was with his nickname Mona on it, and it was for $1.5 million. And then the subsequent ones were all in millions of euros, over and over and over and over again, being sent to me. Now, the thing about it is, my dad, the greedy framer, always does this, and he would do this until he would think that my brain savant is getting freed and it's inevitable. Something major would happen, due to which he would change his strategy. And the way he would change his strategy is, instead of asking for money, he would plain and simply put money transfer ads on, ask law enforcement to put money transfer ads on my YouTube, like, as in to say, not amount, but just to say, "Are you going to send it to me or not?" sort of thing. He gets very aggressive towards the end if he sees that my brain savant's about to get freed. And it's inevitable. The courts have to remember the fact that I have never lived with my dad, the greedy framer. I've been watched since I was an 11-year-old child, 24/7. There isn't a single instance in my entire life where I have even lived in the same country as my dad, the greedy framer, never talked to him on the phone, making it impossible for someone like that to have had any influence on my life or environment whatsoever. And so now he just found out about the brain savant money. At most, he would call once a year, maybe like once for 5 years. And the way my mother has raised me, I've lived with my mother my entire life. The way my mother has raised me is I'm very polite and respectful towards people, even people that I do not like at all. I would be really polite and respectful towards. And so in 2025, he was calling a little too much and getting a little too excited, calling me. And after a few phone calls, obviously I understood that the man that called me once a year maximum, usually it was like once every 5 years. It was now calling me every single day. So obviously I started ignoring him. I didn't block his number at that time, but I just ignored him. Didn't reply to the text messages, ignored the phone calls. I knew what had happened. Law enforcement basically told him about my brain savant money potential that artificial intelligence had. Obviously, like, I'm not stupid. The next day he gets the message really quickly, and he tells law enforcement to start blackmailing me with his ads, Disney ads for his sister, and then Hershey, Pennsylvania ads for his other sister, basically saying that you have a court case going on and I'm friends with law enforcement and I'm going to harass you now to make sure that your brain savant doesn't get freed. No one's getting the money if I'm not getting it. Basically, that's what he was saying. He did this until June 28, 2025. He fought very aggressively, even made videos for the government to watch. On June 28, 2025, on that night, I won my case fair and square, a really big victory for me. The next day, June 29, 2025, the man completely changes. Father-son ads all over YouTube. Like July 18, he's saying, oh, I feel like the baby son is born and this and that, blah, blah, blah. He would even call my sister and say things like, I cry on my free time thinking about Hassan. Basically, obviously, the man was told about the money, and he was going crazy that my mother's going to get it, and he's going to sit there without even having a job because he works at hospitals just helping doctors. He's not a physician's assistant. He doesn't do anything that requires a college degree. He just helps doctors at hospitals, and law enforcement illegally told everyone about something that's inside of my brain due to which this whole entire mess was caused. They never did their job, and I'll explain exactly what they've been doing since 2001, just running sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws and money fraud. Right now, people don't know it. People are just like, why is the government not supporting law enforcement? Mainly because law enforcement and the government have known each other for a long time. As long as I have known law enforcement is how long the government's known law enforcement. And when law enforcement was trying to frame me for the wedding incident, crime, basically, I know it was a crime, in 2023 by flashing me with severe drugs every time wedding was mentioned around me in 2023 after August 25th, 2023, only because they didn't want to let me use my brain savant. Basically, that entire year of 2023, law enforcement were running money fraud and sex schemes the entire year. In November 2023, they ran sex schemes for Uncle Joey so aggressively, you would lose interest in ever running for office after seeing that. Like, if someone like Uncle Joey is being given protocol like this by law enforcement, Uncle Joey, by the way, I know for a fact hates me, and due to the fact that I always ignored his sex scheme ad requests by law enforcement, and I'm sure that he would probably rejoice at every time I was losing, and he would get happy. He would get sad every time I was winning this case. Obviously, he hates me, and the reason is that I rejected his sex scheme ads that law enforcement sent me every single time to try to be seen near the guy with the triple savant, and I didn't want to like help them out with this thing. And it was like, so when I was a child, my mother told me to not go near him, and I'm not making this up. Obviously, law enforcement knows about this very well. In fact, if you look at Uncle Joey's computer right now, last week, probably you would find it. But what happened was, when I was a child, my mother caught him one time, and in the phone conversation from Russia, my mother talks about it very clearly in detail. She doesn't know about investigation or what the right or wrong answer was, but my mother caught him with a conversation when I was a child being adult supervised by him. After that, I never saw him ever again. I never met Uncle Joey after that moment when I was a child being adult supervised by him. Never met him ever again. She would put me to be adult supervised by other people, but never by Uncle Joey ever again after that moment. And the conversation that I had with my mother from Russia will let you know. Also, the facts and evidences will also let you know about that, which means that law enforcement tried multiple times to try to get me to meet Uncle Joey to help them, and Uncle Joey with his sex scheme ads. I refused each and every single time, making the last time I met Uncle Joey was when I was a child being adult supervised, and he got caught caught with that online chat. Anyways, so basically, what I was trying to say is, government knows law enforcement really well, and they know them for years and years. And people don't know this, and news media does not know this. I know this. Okay, so like in 2023, after August 25th, 2023, basically I won my case fair and square, and like it was kind of announced that this guy is going to become extremely rich really fast. And I know this for a fact because I would go to like Target stores before August 25th, 2023, and there would be women standing in front of me, like girls, and they would be like standing in front of me, stopping in the middle of the aisle, acting like they didn't know I was standing there, trying to see if I like their faces or not, and like stuff like that. And basically, law enforcement told every single person about my brain savant before I even whispered it into anyone's ears before August 25th, 2023. Obviously, I'm not stupid. I understood that they obviously had a brain scanner, giving me a list of girls to choose from. All these girls standing in front of me in Target stores. Clearly, I only knew August 9th, 2022. Law enforcement probably knew way before then. Yeah. I hid it. I kept it a secret because, like, till you cash in your lottery ticket, if you let anyone know about it, this is what happens. Let me show you. This is what I need to talk to you about. This is what came this morning, 10:56 a.m. July 14th, 10:56 a.m. Send me money transfer ad. Basically a money heist, bank heist, sent by my dad, the Greedy Framer, this morning, July 14th at 10:56 a.m. Yeah, you could see the clock on the side. So this is exactly why. And I knew that this is why no one tells anyone, and I kept it a secret. It was my personal private info that law enforcement went around telling everyone about, which is why this is happening. This man, my dad, the Greedy Framer, whom I have nothing to do with, by the way, never lived with him in the same, even the same country ever in my life, never talked to him on the phone. He has had absolutely no effect on my life or environment, and one of the 3 times I went to go meet him, yeah, in 2011, you can ask law enforcement exactly what happened then. Well, anyways, the thing about it is just the fact that, yeah, law enforcement has, so basically, the thing about law enforcement is people don't know this. Me, the government, and law enforcement, we go way back. So in 2023, when this was happening, after August 25th, 2023, basically, they tried to frame me for a wedding incident. And so basically what happened is what ended up happening was, yeah, law enforcement confessed to amongst themselves that I had nothing to do with this wedding crime. I could not have had anything to do with it. For me, in childhood, poverty was a blessing in disguise. So people like us that were going around committing crimes, present everywhere, and I could not even afford to do so. I was working hard with my mother from the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. That's what I'm saying. That's what the report from law enforcement will tell you from facts and evidences. In fact, my entire life, all I've done is work hard. Even when I was in my overseas pharmacy school, the only person I ever talked to and basically lived with, since my mother was the only person I ever talked to, and she was paying for all my things, and even when I was on the side of the street, she was the only person whose house I would go back to or talk to, or she would pay for my things. Basically, yeah, even then I was running on like 2 sandwiches, and even then I never lived with my dad, the Greedy Framer, ever in my life. I never even talked to him on the phone. It was basically just my mother paying for my things and taking care of me, calling me, going back to her house. Yeah, so basically running on 2 sandwiches for like months and sleeping on the side of the streets with lizards crawling all around me near my overseas pharmacy school, things of that sort of nature. I worked really hard my entire life, not just then, even before then. I used to work as many hours as possible at like places like Home Depot, Rite Aid, wherever I could. I saved up money to buy a car for my sister and my mother, and basically I worked really, really hard from the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. Yeah. And basically, poverty was a blessing in disguise for me. Law enforcement and all the other people in the family, the people that they want to associate me with, like people like Assad would be involved in crimes with law enforcement. Law enforcement would cover it over. Assad would come and narrate in my trial due to extreme envy of my brain savant getting freed. Basically, these kinds of things have been going on. And then as soon as law enforcement would cover it over, law enforcement was basically, law enforcement would basically like totally ignore it, cover it over, run sex schemes, money fraud with everyone. But then in at times like August 25th, 2023, when I finally did realize that they had a brain scanner and asked them for my right to be able to study, when I did so, basically what happened was law enforcement tried to frame me for a wedding incident that I had nothing to do with. And so law enforcement basically confessed before trying to frame me by making this testimony against me that tried to frame me for the wedding incident. Basically, what ended up happening was the government obviously found out, not only through law enforcement's confession that I had nothing to do with this, that they were trying to frame me for, obviously due to not wanting to let me study with my brain savant powers due to extreme envy, but now the government got involved. This is like one of those times when the government got involved, and after like 2023, so November 2023, the law enforcement were basically running a sex scheme for Uncle Joey, trying to force me to help him. I ignored their request. You could tell from the conversation I had with my mother from Russia that she told me as a child never to go near him, and I never did. Facts and evidence that showed I've never met Uncle Joey after I was a child. So basically what ended up happening was in November 2023, law enforcement aggressively ran a sex scheme ad for Uncle Joey at the funeral without me being present. The guy with the brain savant wasn't there. I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound prideful or anything, but this is pretty much what they were trying to do. This was the sex scheme ad. And what the reason I know what Junaid and Ibrahim were doing on the night of July 10th is because of what law enforcement's been doing with Uncle Joey for years. So basically, November 2023 was supposed to be Uncle Joey's sex scheme ad, and the law enforcement ran a sex scheme ad for Uncle Joey at the funeral, very aggressively, giving him a protocol that would not like most governors would probably envy. Like they would be like, man, I wish I had that kind of protocol. Yeah, but they had to do it without me. I wasn't present there, and the law enforcement basically provided Uncle Joey with top-notch intelligence, telling him exactly where I was, and that I was babysitting a child, and that that if he texted to have the child removed from me, then I'd be forced to go to the funeral, and that they'd basically do the sex scheme ad. Well, do whatever you want. I don't have to go to any funerals. I don't have to go to any funerals. I didn't go. I knew what they wanted. I knew exactly what they were planning on doing. At the end, they got really angry, and Uncle Joey and law enforcement's conversations boiled up so much that you had foreign senators quoting Uncle Joey's words as ungrateful child being referred to me. I'm not going to do that. My mother told me as a child never to go near him, and I know about his bad habits, and I know about law enforcement's bad habits. I'm not doing that. So anyways, after 2023, the law enforcement basically tried to frame me for the wedding incident after August 25th, 2023, only because I won my court case. And obviously the day after I won my court case, my first thing was, give me my brain savant powers. I want to study now. I've had enough. Basically, I told law enforcement straight out after August 25th, 2023, I know you have a brain scanner, and I know because you told everyone about it, about my brain savant, which no one knew about. I never told anyone about, because it's just like you have a lottery ticket, you never tell anyone about it. The number one rule in having a lottery ticket is don't ever tell anyone till you cash it out. I'm not stupid. I'm not mentally retarded. I didn't tell anyone about it. How do these people know? These girls at Target stores, how do they know? June 2023, Miss Deb knows. Clearly, she's sending me ads for me to marry her daughter all day and night long, from morning till night, for Ashley's Furniture. Clearly, she knows. And she knows 2 months before I've even whispered into anyone's ears. Till August 25th, 2023, I never told a single soul about it. August 25th, 2023, basically, I won my court case. And obviously, by that time, I'm not stupid. I realized they have a brain scanner. They told everyone about my brain savant. I'm like the poor kid who was a complete total loner my entire life. If girls are following me around at Target stores, clearly they know something, and that's the only thing they could know. So I told law enforcement straight out, I was like, you got a brain scanner, I know you know, and I want to, you got my brain savant locked up on purpose. So August 9th, 2022, when I first found out about it, a 6-hour-long brain savant test on the flight, only because the law enforcement thought that they would cause a mid-flight medical emergency. It was like an arm came out of my body using my brain savant powers, and I thought law enforcement locked it up by accident. They just used air drugging on me to torture me, harass me, and they just locked it up by accident. They didn't know what they were doing. So I would just like keep your mouth cut and shut, and don't tell a single person about it. They're not letting me talk right now. So basically, it's like I came out of that flight, first time I ever found out about it, I used it for 6 hours though. So as soon as I got off the flight, it was like that scene from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Charlie's been given the golden ticket and the old man tells him, Charlie, don't tell anyone about it. So basically I never told anyone about it. And after August 25th, 2023, I told people about it, but everyone knew about it from before, which meant that law enforcement basically had a brain scanner. Now, the thing about it is, I never told anyone about it, so these people knew about it from before. Now, the thing about it is, the entire year of 2023, law enforcement did absolutely nothing except for one money fraud. Basically, what they did was they would get one of their BFFs, people that I have never seen since I was a child. Probably, yeah. And so, because pretty much ever since I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, the facts and evidences will show you that all I did was work hard in life and I was never seen anywhere ever again. And so basically what ended up happening was, law enforcement later on were running these money frauds where they would basically get the person, their own BFFs, like Uncle Joey or whomever. They would get that person to basically go and claim disability. They would get rejected. The next day they're not disabled anymore, and they're running unemployment fraud. So basically that is what would happen. And so they would running these frauds all year 2023, and they would just do, you take some, we take some. And law enforcement would basically take that money, give it to their own friend in law enforcement, who's the person who fabricated the group chat false testimony against me from overseas near my pharmacy school. And he also fabricated another false testimony against me right now, 4 days ago on July 11th, just 4 days ago. And the reason he did that was because on July 10th, obviously I knew that if Junaid and Ibrahim, the Greedy Framer spokesperson, were coming in front and behind my car cameras, they were doing the same sex scheme ad that law enforcement did for Uncle Joey before, where they would just be like, look at this guy, so nice, in San's camera, you should totally sleep with him, sort of thing. And so he got so angry that he went and he, in haste, he went and he fabricated a false testimony against me, but this time he got caught. Basically, fabricating and basically spoon-feeding people from my overseas pharmacy school, telling them exactly what to say on July 11th to try to humiliate and degrade me as much as possible. This time he gets caught. So group chat false testimony, and now this false testimony on July 11th, 2026, just 4 days ago. So basically, yeah, that is that person in law enforcement from my overseas, near my overseas pharmacy school. That's the person that money from disability unemployment would go to. The entire year of 2023, law enforcement were, and then in return, he would make false testimonies against me, fabrications from my overseas pharmacy school. He already did that for the group chat from my overseas pharmacy school. And I told the courts then that this man, he's been caught doing it before. And he went over to someone named Marouk in my overseas pharmacy school, and he tells her to say this and that. Well, he does that again. And then I told the courts that, look, he's just fabricating false testimonies. She would have talked to the person who fabricated the group chat before her, and right after she talked to that person, this person moves over from law enforcement, from that person that he fabricated the group chat to Marouk. And so then what ended up happening was this person in the law enforcement overseas basically is fabricating false testimonies against me. The courts are just like, we don't have evidence of this. Well, anyways, 4 days ago, July 11th, 2026, in his haste to try to degrade and humiliate me, he fabricated a false testimony. This time he gets caught. So he's gotten caught with group chat, and he's gotten caught with July 11th spoon-feeding these girls in overseas pharmacy school, from my overseas pharmacy school, telling them exactly what to say to fabricate false testimonies against me. So now, thankfully, now there will not be any more group chats coming from him, because he's been caught with way too much. But he is the person in law enforcement overseas, near my overseas pharmacy school, that the money from the disability and unemployment would go to. So obviously he would fabricate false testimonies for them and do things of that sort of nature. And so basically, what ended up happening was the entire year of 2023, law enforcement were running these unemployment disability frauds to get their friend, this person in law enforcement, money, who would help them basically fabricate false testimonies, do things of that sort of nature. Now he's gotten caught with two of them, major ones. One was the group chat false testimony. Now you had another one 4 days ago on July 11, 2026. Now, basically, the entire year of 2023, this is what law enforcement was doing. They were running their money fraud, and then in November 2023, Uncle Joey at the funeral, they were basically giving him a protocol that would envy most governors. And obviously, I didn't go to the funeral because I knew exactly what they wanted me to do, what they were going to do, and I didn't go. So the last time I've met Uncle Joey, as a phone conversation with my mother from Russia will clearly show, and the facts and evidences will show, would be that last time would be when I was a child and Uncle Joey was found with the online chat that my mother found him with. After that, I've never seen him ever again since I was a child. So basically, yeah, we're being adult supervised by him. And after that, obviously, never seen. The facts and evidences will also show you that. So basically, the entire year of 2023, this is what law enforcement were doing: money fraud, sex schemes. And then at the end of 2023, after they saw that I was completely, continuously nagging for my right to be able to study, telling them that my brain savant, I want to use it. I just won my court case August 25th, 2023. Law enforcement's not going to do that. They're not going to let me study, because then their sex schemes to get ruined. They want to be able to run after these girls that are coming after me because of my brain savant. If the girls see my brain savant powers in 30-minute brain savant test, with artificial intelligence already told them what would happen in the 30-minute test, you think the girls are going to listen to them? Obviously not. And it's no secret that what artificial intelligence has predicted is going to come happen in the end of the 30-minute test is what's going to happen at the end of the 30-minute test. We know this for a fact because every time brain savant test result main one comes out, the law enforcement has something crazy happening. Like December 10th, the one for November 14th came out, and they had a girl that they knew stalking me who hit the back of my car so hard I ended up in the emergency room. And then you had the other one for May 10th, 2026 come out on June 7th, and then Kelly from law enforcement starts stroking my penis really hard. Then she would touch my tongue and then make my rectum feel wet. And then the one for June 24th, 2026 came out, and on July 8th, and Kelly from law enforcement did the same kind of things. How do I know that the one for June 24th, 2026 came out on July 8th? I was expecting it to come out 21 days later on July 21st. So how do I know that it came out on July 8th? Because Kelly from law enforcement let me know by doing the same dirty things that she does. Basically, yeah. Yeah, so at the end of 2023, after I was nagging and I was telling law enforcement, I know you know about my brain savant, I know you have it locked up on purpose, and I'm a triple savant, and everyone knows about it, and you told everyone about it, you've got a brain scanner, and I want my brain savant powers, I want to study now. August 25th, 2023, I won my court case, I want to study now. So basically, law enforcement went and they tried to fabricate a false testimony against me about a wedding incident that I had nothing to do with, and I was just like, I found out about this wedding incident that you committed, law enforcement, by covering over it. I know for a fact you covered over it because all you've done 2023 is run sex schemes and money fraud. And yeah, so obviously everyone that could have even committed this crime, which has to be a real crime because they went and they testified this to people higher up in the government so that they could get an excuse to try to murder me before my brain savant could ever be seen performing out in the open due to their sex addiction and envy against it. So basically, yeah. But right before testifying to the government, what law enforcement ended up doing was confessing amongst themselves that they knew that I had nothing to do with it, and that they themselves covered over it due to their own BFFs, like Assad committing the crime. Not only would you see Assad committing the crime, he would talk about it throughout the entire wedding. Psychology of criminals, that's what they do, basically. So, yeah. Now, the thing about it is just the fact that, after that testimony, the government's just like, all right, we got the confession. We know that Hassan has nothing to do with it. That's fine. That part of the story is put aside. But we need you, law enforcement, to investigate this crime since it is a crime. So we need you to investigate it. So why don't you go ahead and do that? So law enforcement from that time in end of 2023 till today on July 15, 2026 has never done an ounce of investigation for that running crime. In fact, law enforcement was also told by the government, like the people that law enforcement went and they made this testimony, which was a false testimony against me too, and then they confessed right before it. Those same people in the government, like the president whom they made the false testimony to, obviously they found out the confession that law enforcement made right before trying to frame me, and obviously the next day they're just like, all right, law enforcement, how about you go and investigate this since it is a real crime. So the real people who were really to be held accountable, we need you, law enforcement, since it is your job to go investigate them. Law enforcement refused to do that. This was end of 2023. Today it is July 15, 2026. It's been literally 3 years. Yeah, you might be like end of 2023. Well, they knew about it the entire year of 2023. Obviously, they were trying to frame me all year 2023. So it has been 3 years. 3 years, and they've been told by the government to investigate this. They haven't investigated it. And the entire year of 2023, when they were trying to frame me for this wedding incident, flashing me with severe mental torture drugs every time a wedding was mentioned around me, they were running their money fraud and their sex schemes. So they couldn't care less about any crimes or anything of that sort of nature. Basically, what ended up happening was law enforcement were continuously annoyed by the government over and over again. And I could tell from their frustration, they were being annoyed, like, investigate the crime, investigate the crime, investigate the crime, investigate the crime, and law enforcement would completely just ignore it. I know for a fact because every time the president would say something like, these people don't know what they're doing or something like that, they would make a cartoon replica of him and put it on YouTube to try to make fun of him, do things of that sort of nature, when in fact it was a clear fact that people in the government were getting annoyed because law enforcement were not doing their job. And then now you had people like Assad, who's been roaming around freely, never asked a single question, despite me guaranteeing everyone he was not only the president, he was also fully involved in the crime. And not only would he be involved in the crime, you hear him speak of the crime the entire wedding. So basically, law enforcement were not doing their job, and the government kept telling them. And every time the government asked them to do the investigation on the crime, law enforcement would make fun of like the president and stuff, and put like a cartoon video of him saying things like they don't know what they're doing and things of that sort of nature, just to try to make fun of the president, asking them to do their job. They never did. Right now it is July 15, 2026. This is from 2023, and the government also asked them to do another thing, which was to end their money fraud, which they never did. If they did do it, it would only be a month ago. I can guarantee you that much. They would not end their money fraud. Basically, law enforcement's money fraud probably started around the year 2022, when every country in the world was looking over this, and they found out that law enforcement's been running their sex scheme since 2001 with Uncle Joey's in-laws very aggressively, due to which they also had to run it for Uncle Joey as well. When the world, like, governments found out about this, they were just like, what the heck is going on? What does this kid have to do with anything? And why are you not letting him study? What is the story behind this? It doesn't make any sense, and it's not adding up. Well, law enforcement then, instead of hiding what they've been doing since 2001, they did more crimes, and they started money fraud. Basically, the money fraud goes as in, it started with a disability. The person would claim a disability, and then when he would get rejected the next day, he would no longer be disabled. He would go apply for unemployment, and law enforcement would basically teach them how to do this, and they would say, you take some, we take some. No one gives their own money. You take some, we take some. It's going to be a fraud, but we're going to turn a blind eye to it. And then what we're going to do is this is the bank account number, contact info, everything about the person in law enforcement that you have to send the money to. We're going to turn a blind eye to the fraud. You take some, we take some, sort of thing. And law enforcement kept running this fraud. Basically, what ended up happening was the government kept nagging at them for doing two things. Mainly, the one thing was this: they were stupid enough to go testify about this wedding incident that they basically committed themselves by covering over the crime. They think they're the law of the land, and there are a lot of people in the news media that have basically given them all this power, due to which they are have been continuously committing crimes, covering over them for their BFFs, only to try to frame me for them. And the main reason that they're doing this is because obviously they don't want to let me use my brain savant. I haven't even gotten through a 30-minute brain savant test yet, and all that does and proves is that they're not obsessed with not letting it be seen out in the open performing, due to which they've done everything that they've done to try to frame me. So basically, they confessed to the government themselves that there was a crime that they were trying to frame me for. So the government obviously was just like, all right, so if there's a crime, then why don't you investigate it? And the government's been nagging at them to investigate the crime. And then every single time, I know for a fact the government's been doing this, because every single time the government would say something like that to them, like, why don't you go investigate the crime, law enforcement would basically ignore the government and put like a cartoon video on YouTube of the cover of the president saying something like, they don't know what they're doing, basically, and then they would put a cartoon video of that on YouTube to try to make fun of him. So the government was after law enforcement to investigate this crime. Law enforcement never investigated. The other thing that the government's been asking law enforcement to do is to end the money fraud. The law enforcement has not ended the money fraud. It started in 2022, and right now it is July 15th, 2026. That's at least 4 years that I know of that law enforcement has been running the money fraud. And I know because they abruptly just stopped asking everyone when they were trying to find people from their own BFFs. Like, I'm not anyone's BFF. When I get my brain savant powers, I'm going in the basement and studying with my tablet and getting textbook from Amazon. I don't want to be annoyed by anyone, and all they do is ask for either sex or money. And even like yesterday, they were asking me to help them with their sex scams. Like, how can I try to scam someone's daughter when I'm being scammed myself? Like, Farrah the Greedy Framer has been sending me ads for her daughter. Obviously, it's a prenup scam, and Miss Deb is trying to get me married to her married daughter, which sounds so weird to say, married to her married daughter. Her daughter's married, not separated, not divorced. Like, she's happily married. Miss Deb's trying to get me to marry her daughter, while at the same time narrate against me in a trial, and these people in law enforcement want me to go and try to scam other people's daughters. Like, I'm being scammed myself right now by two people arguing against me in court, while at the same time trying to force me to marry their daughters, which it literally is happening today as well. So basically, yeah, so that is what happened. They just used drugs on me to make me forget. Give me 1 second.